don't really have quorum. We're basically, but I think we're fine to discuss, because one topic we want to bring up is this super blueprint thing, and it would be good if we could just do some brainstorming.
Yep. So I did restart the recorder. The recorder is going, just so everybody knows. Let's start out with our antitrust policy. You can find it linked to the LF and project websites. It's important where multiple companies, including potential industry competitors, are participating in meetings. Please review the policy, and if you have questions, contact your company legal counsel. Members of the LF can contact Andrew Updegrove at the firm of Gassmeyer Updegrove LLP, which provides legal counsel to the LF. All right, you want to jump right into the brainstorming? I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Yeah.
If you want to go there.
Just Alex is here, so that's good. And Alex, can you hear us, or are you? And then we have Muthu from AMI.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So let me just add Muthu here as well. So we met, me and Daniel only last week. Daniel, do you want to give a little summary of what we discussed?
I can do that. So basically, we had two discussions. One is kind of the target to get into the long-term super blueprint, to have kind of us listed in the infrastructure management. We discussed a little bit where we should be in that, and I guess Jonas, your suggestion was somewhere in the bottom, right, as the kind of hardware layer, if you look at the stack kind of picture. And then we did a quick review of the current demos, and I think from that discussion, and also that has been my view, that there is no perfect fit for us in the current demos. There could be potentially some of the upcoming ones. There is one around to a kind of an end-to-end network, and something about the emulated solution where potentially there could be something, but these are still very early. The rest of them are kind of very basic, trying to get functions to work on a container environment, and there is no, the deployments are quite limited in scale, right? So it's not a perfect. Then we discussed also a little bit kind of the long term or the future. I think if you look at the whole super blueprint, it kind of encompasses a lot, and there is also a lot of different projects that are part of the base platform. And I think we also had a little bit of discussion about kind of all the edge scenarios that are there, and kind of distributed edge infrastructure, and if there is a fit there to make kind of a really 5G pitch demo that fits into this story, and handle some of the complexities of kind of more distributed complex hardware that needs to be managed. So basically that's what we discussed. We also talked about that we should kind of, from all of us, look at what kind of initial work and initial demos we have done. And from my side, we did a very simple demo in December, in kind of as an internal training, and that's something I'm looking into, and to see if we can revive that based on the latest and greatest, and have something. But I think the next short-term step, so we have this presentation for June. I think that should be our first step to kind of position ourselves in this super blueprint, potentially highlight some of the values we can add to the first demos, and also kind of the motivation why we should be in the picture. So that's kind of the next step that I see.
Yeah, it seems like most of the super blueprint use cases are already, everything is up and running, and they want to demo something. So there is no provisioning, there is no setting up hardware. So we were going to have to point that out and somehow be part of that effort, if that is an effort, right?
Yeah.
And when you say June, are you thinking about this developer and testing forum then, or for? Because that's the thing in June.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the one we said that I will do a one slider kind of architecture slider about about this and how we fit
Yeah.
into the overall super blueprint and potentially.
Yep.
And I think the most important thing is to get us on the slide, right? The overall super blueprint slide. There is kind of all possible projects are listed there, and I think if we can have a small box in the infrastructure management and we know kind of very visible there, that would be a good achievement.
Yep.
Daniel, I have a question concerning the one slider and like the presentation at the June event. We probably want to go in front of the next demo meeting, just to sort of lay that out with those folks to make sure that everybody's aligned and sort of aware. Does that make sense? I wasn't on the last call last week, but I don't know if it came up or not. But we do want to, give folks a heads up, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's do that. I think the architecture slide we had another gentleman from LFN here last time, and that was when we discussed and I agreed to make this slide. I'll try to get it for the next and check with the kind of demo meeting how we can kind of give them a heads up. I think we have 2 meetings left until the June, right? So it's probably good to get it in on the next meeting.
Yeah, I think the next meeting should be the Tuesday coming up, because it's every other week. So yeah, that'll be great if we can put that in front of the committee, or not in front of the community for next week. Then that must have been Kenny Paul. I think I saw him he was on the meeting last week. I saw him on the attendance list. So yeah, perfect. Yeah, that'll be great.
When you say this one slide, so is what we're looking at, I guess. So if you look at this link, let me see if I can share that in the chat. There is a link here. Is this, and the first thing that pops up is this architectural slide, right? Where we have ONAP, and on the right hand side, well, I can actually share my desktop perhaps if I really want to do something good here. See that one. Am I sharing? Can you see this?
Yes, it's up on the screen.
This is the LF open source component project, and you see here we have ONAP, we have infrastructure management, and there we have Anuket, OpenStack, and Kubernetes. So I think we should be belong here on the right side somewhere, right, where we are. I mean, this is not an Etsy thing, of course, but if it says infrastructure management, why wouldn't we sit in that box somehow next to?
We could, except the difference is that when they say infrastructure management, they don't talk about low-level operations. Okay, what they're basically talking about is being able to Anuket is all about creating a bill of materials to build an end-to-end stack, right? So there's a definition language that basically allows you to build a solution stack end to end and do it in an automated way. OpenStack has elements of physical, the standalone ironic is there. Kubernetes is there with MetalCube, right? So
MetalCube is also using ironic. Yeah,
they also are, which is why they're here. But in my mind, right, all of these 3 things somehow below them is ODIM.
Yeah, that was
in some sense. Maybe we need to distinguish between kind of infrastructure management versus infrastructure ops or something like that. I don't know, but it seems like we need a separate box underneath, or at least our logo.
Yes, I guess what we discussed, Jonas, was either to be in the bottom of this box, the infrastructure management. Alternatively, you can make an own box under, similar to the SDN controller, right, and have it underneath all of them.
So in some sense, Daniel, this is Daniel, right?
Yes.
Yeah. In some sense, we could potentially be at the same level as the SDN controller, right? Because I think what we've got there is, what the hell do we have there? Is that I can't see the The logo.
It's open daylight and something else. I
Open
don't see what
daylight
other.
and tungsten. Okay, so maybe we can put ourselves down below, right? So that we can distinguish we can define the hierarchy. So, you know, an SDN controller, next to it, ONAP, and physical infrastructure management. And we can, you know, we can obviously talk about the fact that it's across compute, storage, and network. And then above are the kind of the orchestrators, the infrastructure orchestration kind of capabilities that, and maybe that's the distinction. Maybe infrastructure management should really say orchestration, and the bottom box should say device management or something like that, and that's where we come in.
Yeah,
I don't.
Alex, I completely agree with you, but I'm also sensitive to these guys probably put some effort into dividing this up. So I'm thinking diplomatically, it might be easier to just stick us under infrastructure management than to rearrange their whole
Sure,
architecture
we could
stack.
do that. Yeah, except that, do we have anything that has to do with SDN control?
No, we
No.
don't really.
Yeah. So, well, but you know, this is logical. Let's start with your proposal. I'm happy with that.
So the question is, how can we push them to accept ODIM in here and then start looking at use cases?
Well,
Daniel, you haven't talked to them yet, I guess, but
I have a diagram that we can potentially use.
But that was that the CNTT one?
No.
Okay.
I have a very crude kind of I call them 5-year-old diagrams that basically show.
You can share that if you want. Alex, you have a video going in back here as a.
Oh.
That was very. That was actually pretty cool. Like a palm tree and.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's my hangout. Let's see if I can show that slide deck.
And then if you can share it as well, that would be helpful for making this one slider. So I think the plan should be to kind of give a heads up on the next meeting with these guys and then have the presentation in June, one slider, and kind of that's the path to get included in some way. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I'm looking for.
So while we are looking, another question I had, as you mentioned, CNTT as well. So in some way, we also draw ourselves kind of how we fit into the CNTT picture, and we had that discussion several months ago. So in some way, we could also kind of fit into AnuCat also in this picture, right? Or as part of AnuCat, I guess AnuCat still covers the whole CNTT scope in some way, or how is that now? I'm not.
It's a separate project. AnuCat. Oh, AnuCat, yes, yeah, it is all of CNTT. I thought you were talking about something else.
No, but then
AnuCat is the OPNFV plus CNTT.
But it's a superset that also covers all of the CNTT scope, right?
That's what I said.
Yeah.
AnuCat is CNTT plus OPNFV. So those two are merged together. So of course, AnuCat covers the whole of CNTT, and there is no CNTT anymore.
No, but I mean that you presented, Thomas, a picture of the CNTT, and we discussed how we fit into the CNTT, and in some way in this super blueprint picture, we could in the same way fit in under the AnuCat, right? As part of the AnuCat in this picture. You can just
replace the word CNTT with AnuCat in that, because OPNFV was more of a back-end testing type of a thing. And AnuCat and CNTT is equal when it comes to the reference model, the reference architecture.
Yeah. This is the one I'm showing now, right? This is what we did, where we had some chats with them. So I think we talked about fitting in here.
Yep.
So my question is more
the analogy with the SDN control that you talked about now a little bit awkward, because the SDN controller is by no means underneath. It might be partially inside and partially over and above.
Yeah.
So but it's the original picture that in some ways is a little bit strange.
Yeah, I think the problem is that either they did something wrong, or you and I, Thomas, are thinking too much Etsy here, and that's why this doesn't align. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, but AnyCat doesn't fit in this way in this picture, right? Fully, it's a bit weird. It's broader than this, but so in some way we could also fit into this picture as part of the big AnyCat box.
Yeah, I mean, AnyCat tries to standardize things around cloud infrastructure, so it should cover more things than what it did in that picture as well. But I mean, I agree that we shouldn't mess around with what LFN thinks is the picture too much. That doesn't help the cause.
So there were a couple of diagrams we built early on around ODIM and how it fits into things. This one happens to be airship related, but there was also kind of a generic way of positioning things that from an ODIM perspective, right? I don't know if you guys can see this. Is this too? So, you know, what basically we were trying to say here is that, you know, you've got different levels of orchestration and optimization kind of happening. There's service, there's resource, there's physical infrastructure or physical resource orchestration. That's where, you know, that's kind of the layer that where ONAP is. And then what we do is we have a normative API here for exposure, visibility, control, and policy, right? So the idea was to say that top down, this starts with intent-based orchestration, and you know you can substitute AnyCat here, right? Because I think the holy grail is to get there as well. But it's a sequence of layers, right? You know, an ONAP, for example, you know, could arguably be, you know, somewhere in these two boxes, but, you know, at the bottom here in the middle, rather, it could also be Kubernetes, or it could be, you know, other things. So then we kind of built a view of the world that kind of showed the relationship between things like airship or standalone ironic or metal cubed or whatever you want to put in that box, that sort of, you know, defines, that kind of relates to what ODIM is, right? So I think maybe this diagram could be used to sort of, you know, if we substitute logos in, I think it might actually, you know, explain how we fit in, right?
Yeah, no, that's good.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm simply saying this is something I have in my arsenal of slides, and it resonates with people when you talk to them about, you know, kind of having out of band experience that maps into day zero, kind of day one, bare metal provisioning tools like Airship, and maybe more even, right? And then also it ties in the same single source of truth into your operating system, your containerized or virtualized environments, or cloud rather, or application runtimes. And above that, you've got different applications like VNFs and CNFs, and above that you have end-to-end services, 5G, IoT. This is broader, but you know, we can constrain it. Anyway, just wanted to throw this out. If you guys don't think it's the right approach, that's fine by me.
So how did you want to use this, Alex, to talk?
Well, I think Daniel was basically saying that we kind of need to explain where it fit in, and to build that argument and to even gain a logo inside that infrastructure management box, you know, we probably will need to rationalize why we need to be there. And I think these two slides in some ways help you rationalize that.
What are your thoughts, Daniel? I think it makes sense, but
yeah, I think this makes sense. The only problem with the 5G Super Blueprint is that it's very super. It has everything and then some. So we kind of connect to Airship, connect to the whole AnyCat is a separate box in there. But I think from the discussion and the feedback also from this discussion, it makes a lot of sense to try to be in this one box and not try to redraw the boxes, right?
Yeah, but this is more like, okay, so we want to be in that box, and they say why, and then we can show this. Like I think slide 3 here, Alex explained it very well, but
And we can, I'm just kind of making one slight change to sort of not to encroach on anybody's infrastructure management boundaries. But that's kind of what we're exposing.
Yeah, now what I think this is a good basis.
Yep. So there is that to weasel our way into that architecture slide on the 5G webpage, the blueprint. But then we also have the one slider for the development and testing summit. So I guess the way to go about that is to first try to convince these guys that we belong there, and then we can have a one slider. Is it?
Yeah.
Or? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last time we discussed this, my understanding was that this one slider was kind of heads up in some other presentation that we were doing, and not in their presentation.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's good to align with them that we will do that. But
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
so they don't learn about us being in the 5G super blueprint the first time when we have a presentation at the development testing summit. That would be unfortunate.
That would be weird. Yeah.
Okay, so then Alex, can you throw this to Daniel then somehow, and so you can use
Well, I
it?
can publish it in our on the website for everybody to partake, and then Daniel, you can grab it.
Yeah.
Very good. When is the next meeting, Daniel? Is it next week then? Or?
Next week, Tuesday.
Okay, very good. And just to go back to when you summarized, Daniel, you mentioned as well, and I kind of remember we talked about, you and I, that are there any existing demos? In what context did we talk about that? Was that for the ONUS event this fall, or was it?
It was either for that or a later demo, right? This will continue to grow with demos as I kind of thinking back to when we started at the NFE. It started like very small and growing, and maybe this will go in the same direction. But yeah, so I guess our discussion was that we don't fit in perfectly in any of the demos so far. So maybe one way to get in is to use kind of a own demo in some way, if any of us have one. So
we have a few, so yeah. Well, I think the use case we've seen on this 5G super blueprint is everything is up and running. Now let us demo this. There is nothing about provisioning or setting up BIOSes or boot paths or anything like that. So in order for us to get to that point, I guess we will have to convince them that this is also part of the problem.
So the other way of looking at this is to look at it from the kind of day 0, day 1, day 2 perspective, and see where ODIM fits in, right? Because yes, the blueprint is focused on only on sort of things are good and ready. Now we're going to press the go button, right? Which is sort of incomplete in my mind, right? So maybe we can talk about, what needs to happen, not just on, day 2 when everything is up and running and ready to go, but what actually happens on day 0 and day 1. And I think some of that is already kind of is touched upon in that diagram that Daniel showed, right? This is why some of those logos are where they are. So maybe we just need to remind everybody that, this, use of ODIM will come into play during, the onboarding of the resources, during instantiation of services. That's where ODIM fits in, and obviously during operation of services as well, as you need to adjust your resources. but it's this idea that magically a piece of hardware configures itself to be usable by a VNF. That's fantasy, right? And we're kind of there to kind of bring that back to reality in a way.
Yeah, and also I think, but this discussion is mainly for the blueprint, not so much for the demos, because as I understand the demos, they are kind of right now working to get a few commercial products running on Kubernetes, right? There's no own app or SDN controllers or anything in this diagram in any of the demos that I have seen.
Yes.
So the demos are kind of one step away from kind of us in some way.
Right.
Okay. So what are the actions here? Alex, you will publish this. Daniel, you can use it, and then try to see if we can get in and be part of that diagram.
Yeah. Hey, I see. No, it's there. Never mind. I thought we had a mailing list issue. I'm gonna send an email with the slides. I just don't. My setup is a little weird right now, so I just need to do it that way.
So the other thing is the upcoming what was it? The developer and testing summit. It doesn't seem like a lot of people have added stuff there, but we wanted to have one presentation is the only thing we've seen right now. And Alex, did you say that you want to have another one, or it escapes me right now?
The which?
Oh, this is for the developer and testing summit. I think it's in June. And we said we should have an ODIM refresher there to speak about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can reuse the same set of slides that I think, John and others have been using. I mean, we have kind of like for lack of anything else, kind of like a standard deck that we used in the TAC, and we also used it in other conferences as well. We can brush it off,
well, I think we should have a very short problem description, like this is what we are solving, and then we should try to steer away from
again. Yeah, let's put it out there, and we can collectively get to a consensus on what the slides need to look like.
Yeah. So if we look at the dev and testing, if we think we're going to have 30 minutes, I think if we just do the problem statement, and then we can say what the project has been up to, and perhaps what we are planning on for the next release. I think that, so then we are 15 minutes in, and then we can do a one slider from Daniel on how we fit into this 5D super blueprint effort, and then perhaps some Q&A. Is my thinking.
Okay.
Or is there anything else we want to add? I just don't want to have the same slide set again, because we're a good year in now.
Well, whatever we do, whatever slides we end up with, 1, 2, 3, whatever, let's make sure that we send a consistent message in all the different events. So if we want to come up with new slides, great. Let's just make sure that they're sort of, the standard sort of collateral, part of the standard marketing collateral that we can deploy on websites and conferences, do whatever we need to do.
Yeah. I think we reused like the problem statement and the architecture slides, and then we have something about this was in our first release, this is in our next release, and here is what we are doing in the super blueprint thing. And if there is any other topics that we want to add, we should do that. But it should be a little fresh that this is what ODIM has been up to. And I think, if we get to start on working with Airship, there has been some movement finally on our side as well there, and we have something there, we could talk about that as well potentially. Sure. Okay, so that the thing with that,
so,
is that I think we need to do that fairly quickly. Sorry, Luis, please go ahead.
No, perfect lead in. Thank you. Yeah, so we're asked to get our topic proposals put in by Friday. So this way it'll give us a chance to schedule all the different sessions. So if it's possible, we can get them in by Friday. I know last week's call, there's a bunch of proposals for topics, so we can maybe go back to those. We could take a look at what was proposed. Let's see, I'll bring it up here. It was May 5. Let me know if that came up on the screen.
May 5, TC.
Yeah, no, I have it up
Okay,
here on the
there,
screen. Yeah. So this is, I guess this is the update slide.
Look at that. I said I should do all this, did I?
And as I do read it, and there's a bunch of stuff here on the forum. So it looks like we've got the framework of something something we can deliver for the forum. It's just a matter of following through.
Yeah, so if you look at that ODIM refresher, that's what we said. So Alex sent John a bunch of. Okay, if you go down.
I'm sorry. I went the wrong way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one.
So Alex sent John a bunch of slides presented to community. Continue to enhance that slide set. Okay, so we decided we use that. Remind people what ODIM is and why we're doing it, and then I think what we can add to that, I think, is then this one slider on what we do in the 5G super blueprint.
Yep. I think there's some notes down here about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we could potentially, if the topic is due this Friday, we just need to have somebody to add that, right, as a topic, and then that's it, right, for now.
For now, would that be one topic or two topics?
I think it's one. I don't know if somebody has something else.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that we have much more. I don't think we have time to develop a new demo or anything.
Guys, can I?
Oh, actually, Alex, could Intel do a demo on the simulator? That's just a thought that showed up right now in my head.
I think there was.
Yeah,
I think there was talking about the BMC emulator, right?
Yeah, that
was
one
I highlighted.
See?
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah.
We talk about the same stuff every week.
Yes. This would be potentially a separate topic if we could do that.
Yeah. Do we have Rafal here? No, he's not. Who? Well, if you could check, Alex.
Yeah, I can find out.
Okay. So by Friday we need to get this done. Then, Louise, why don't I take that action? I create the topic.
Okay. It's
Hey,
it's pretty strict. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I can deal with this later.
So yeah, so what do you do? If you go over there and show me, just click ODIM topics.
Yep.
And then.
Yeah. So create ODIM topic. Yeah.
No,
right here, and then.
That's ONUP.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Yes, it was ONUP. ODIM. There we go. So if you click that, all the proper tags will be put in place, and then you just sort of put an overview. The topic leaders with the @ sign, here, and the I think there's a title. Yeah, title right here. You can leave everything here the same because we'll change. I will change the dates once we actually schedule it. I'll put the proper date, but just put the name here, whoever's leading the topic, and then a couple of blurbs here on what it's about. Publish, all done. So it's actually pretty quick. Don't worry about the slides and the recording yet. We'll worry about that as we as we develop the slides. Yeah, just those 3 items here.
So do you have the link
title,
to this create topic thing that you can push?
Absolutely.
In the share chat window, and I can copy it.
So
I'll do that.
apparently, just as a on the good news front, there's a GSMA white paper, I guess, about cloud infrastructure. And ODIM is listed there, and Redfish is actually listed there as one of the sort of standards for how to manage infrastructure hardware.
Huh.
Is that a good thing or a bad? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not really sure.
It is a good thing that it's actually there in that document, because it talks about relationships with other communities, and it also talks about the MTF standards.
Oh, cool.
So this is.
Okay. So the other thing that,
Alex,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just say, Alex, can you send the link to that over on the chat?
Yeah, I will try and do that. Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry, Jonas, go ahead.
No,
So
we had
Jonas,
another.
maybe one more quick comment on this when I'm thinking about it, because now we talked about how we fit into the 5D Super Blueprint, but we also touched about how we connect to Airship and how we fit into Undercut, right? Maybe for the presentation, we should look at the different views to better explain the value and kind of where we fit, or do we look at one of the views, or because they are slightly kind of different, and the 5D Super Blueprint might not be the best drawing in some way. Maybe we should look, as we have looked into all of those, maybe we should view all of them.
I would suggest the slide 3 that I sent out over email has kind of gives you grounding with respect to all the different layers of the end-to-end stack. And, you know, if you substitute concrete names of things into those boxes, I think you can explain ODIM in the context of just about anything.
Yeah, but I was just thinking that maybe if you look at these different pictures we have drawn, the CNTT one is very clear. The 5D Super Blueprint could be confusing. It's not the super, to me, it's not a super clear picture in some way. So maybe if we have the other views, maybe it will make it easier to explain the value we have and how we fit to the world.
Yeah, could be.
Okay, I guess we know now on the Dev and Testing Summit that I will create the topic. Alex, you will check with Rafal if there could be a potential demo as well of the simulator, and then that should close on that. And it's before Friday. Okay, and then so that's the one thing we want to do. The other thing is that I took an action to start a deck on architectural stuff, and obviously I failed. Well, I mean, I started with just because I think Alex pointed me to something called Glyphy.
Yes.
And I started with that. Let me share here. And obviously, I started with just trying to recreate the existing architecture. So now I know how to handle Glyphy. And then I placed that incorrectly. It needs to be under architecture. I don't know how to move this, but I'll try. And then we can start. You know how to do that. And then I think this is a pretty powerful tool. Actually, it has a lot of stuff so you can recreate things. But I'm not done with this completely yet, Alex. But it doesn't matter. Then the future-looking architecture, I want to take a stab at as well to start that. I think what is important is that we also go into discussing a little bit how the services will interact with each other. And this is not the place for that discussion. It's more in the architectural meeting, but I just want to show you that there has been some work there, but not a whole lot. So with that, and I will reach out to you, Alex, to see if you also can do inputs on this. But So Susan, I don't know if you wanted to have a few words on that. So we are trying to set up this release or a roadmap thing.
Right.
And Alex, you had already done that. There is a road. I can't find where you put that roadmap slide right now. Is that in marketing?
Got it, but I copied it as well. Let's see. So yeah, on the topic of updating stuff on the website. So I cut and pasted here just so I'd have it handy. So the release roadmap already outlines part of what we're delivering in August, includes the Dell plugin, the Cisco ACI plugin, the BMC emulator, and composition service. If you look up here, I wanted to add 4 more large new capabilities that we're working on for August, including Kubernetes support for single mode deployment in the 3-node cluster, the Redfish compliant telemetry service initial use cases, a few things there, ODIM profiles, and then updates for the latest DMTF schema. So if it's okay with everybody, I wanted to add those right here to give a more full picture of what's coming in August.
So when we say latest,
well, it's okay. We don't have enough people here to actually. Well, let's see. Who do we have? We have Daniel. We have 4, right?
Well, and I put currently planned because this is, as always, an agile process, and it can be, you know, something could be added, impossible, something could be dropped, but we don't have very much detail in it so far.
I'm familiar with the BMC emulator, the Cisco ACI plugin, the Dell plugin, and some initial version of the composition service, which I guess we should, before we do that, we should ask the folks from AMI if they actually will be ready. The other thing I'm hearing for the first time is Kubernetes support. So can someone enlighten me?
No, that is actually has been there for a long time. You remember how the initial deployment when you are building and bringing it up to run was made from just Docker files. And then we decided, we had a TSC, and we decided that we should move to Kubernetes because that was a better fit with some of the CI/CD stuff.
Oh, so let's qualify that. We're not talking about a feature of the release that somehow enables Kubernetes to use ODIM. We're talking about building ODIM using these tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so can we make that very precise? Because, you know, I look at this and I'm like, holy crap, you know, Kubernetes can use ODIM, you know, that clearly isn't the case.
Yeah, it's for building and deploying ODIM. Right now, everything is running in microservices, right? And before they were running just in standalone containers. Now,
yeah, I would disagree with the ODIM profiles. I think that requires more work, and we shouldn't be in a hurry to push that out there. In fact, I believe
that needs to all of this needs to be ready. So I think there is a difference between a release note and a roadmap. A roadmap is more like, oh, this is what we plan, and you know, we might not get there. And I can agree with you, Alex, that before we have the ODIM profiles, both working with the MTF tools as well as agreed on in the community, that might be after August, right?
Right.
So yeah, so Susan, perhaps ODIM profiles we take out and we stick it in the next release for now. I mean, who knows? It's an agile process. We could be surprised, but I kind of agree with Alex there.
Okay, so does Kubernetes support? Is it clear now from this? Is that the correct statement?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put it on the roadmap because the roadmap typically has features that you're going to have. I think this is just our own kind of internal housekeeping stuff that we need to.
Okay.
It kind of is a feature, Alex, because when you build and run it, it's now in a Kubernetes cluster rather than a Docker. But obviously, when you want to deploy it in production, you're probably going to be a company, and you're probably going to have your own deployment mechanisms anyhow, right? This is just
that's right. Project. So this is just to build the reference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I
It's not a
guess.
feature of ODIM.
How
It's more
about,
like a.
yeah, and I can get rid of the word support to back to the earlier discussion. So,
Well, you don't use Kubernetes to build ODIM, but you use it in the deployment, and you use
Well,
it
we
also in
can,
CIDs.
we can have two swim lanes in the roadmap, you know, ODIM features and ODIM infrastructure, ODIM, you know, internal sort of enhancements or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because if I see, you know, again, Kubernetes, I might still, you know, get very excited that, you know, somebody's done something for the Kubernetes for CNCF.
we
It's just
could say
the
something
installer is
like replace
Kubernetes based.
It's all right. It's probably not worth.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's good. I think so.
Okay. Okay, this is
And it was
good.
already replaced just before. It was just not mature enough to make release 1, right? So.
Okay, I heard at least one other one, and that is I need the number here. I can't just say
Yeah, because
latest.
I think.
Do we know the number? I need to look it up.
Okay. What we need to do is, I think. Oh, John is on the call. I thought. John Leong, yeah. So I don't know, John, if if we want to release in August, what would be the sensible redfish release to go after? There is one coming out very soon here, right?
Are there any functions or schema in the redfish that you need or that you're worried about?
Not really. There might be something on the fabric side that could make it in, but
until you identify that, then you could go with the current release.
And what's the number on that, John?
At the end of the month, it will be 2021.1.
Yeah, that's what I think we should go with.
Okay. Okay. Now that I broke this list, do these items that were already there, do they go, well, I'm trying to break between inside ODIM and other things going on in the project. So these still remain separate, right? Because these are.
Do you think that the Cisco ACI plugin will be mature and rich enough to be part of a release by August? Is a good question, I guess. I mean, we can have that as a goal, of course. We can hit some use cases. Like the Dell plugin is pretty well set, I think.
You maybe want to qualify that because Dell is a big company and maybe say Dell iDRAC release something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there needs to be details there, of course. What versions are supported and what is the functionality? But do you need that in the roadmap? Perhaps you need something about it. iDRAC in them version is what you think?
I mean, it's more like iDRAC might be enough. I mean, like Cisco ACI, that's a little part. It's a part of Cisco, and Dell iDRAC is also a part of Dell. So it's not the whole company's full portfolio suite.
Yeah. So it's like HP ILO, right?
Yep.
Similar. Yeah.
Right. I don't know if I spelled it right, to be honest. Is that correct?
You did. Yes, you did.
So
okay, good.
Maybe that's actually a good point Thomas is making. Maybe we need to maybe we need to be more specific about what these plugins support in terms of specific hardware interfaces, right? So the Redfish plugins that we have, if they support ILO, then we should say that explicitly. If it's iDRAC, then we should say that explicitly.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of helps. I think kind of ground what we have or explain it in more concrete terms.
iDRAC is good, and we don't have an HPE plugin. It's still proprietary. I think where we want to get is once we have profiles that we all agree on, we want to make damn sure that our generic Redfish plugin supports those profiles.
Right.
Because that's going to be our tool to go to vendors and say, yeah, if you want to support ODIM profiles, these are the properties. And if you do, we should be able to take this generic Redfish plugin and just hook up to your equipment and everything will work. That's kind of the long-term dream there, right? But
trust us. Well,
yeah,
that's the word.
yeah. All right. So are we good with this then? And what do you want to do with this, Susan? Do you had a different type of slide, or did you want to just?
Well, actually, I had thought at this level, maybe we could just go ahead and put it in the roadmap slide.
Okay.
Don't we need a category for these four though? What do you call these? These are other repos, other, what should they be
But they're
called?
all the two of them are plugins, and the emulator, I think, I don't know if you need the categories, but this thing is standalone type of thing, right? That anybody can download and use for whatever they want, I'm thinking. But it's going to be a key thing for our CI/CD pipeline.
Definitely. And I was only thinking that if you put them under here, it might be confusing.
Maybe we call it developer support or development environment enhancements or something like that. Wait, no, these are features that we have, right?
Well, and I guess they could
Yeah,
go
so
up here.
I would add, yeah, I mean, I would add those in there. I mean, these are actual ODIM features.
Okay. So we'll put those up there.
What I would say is, instead of enhancements, what I would say is that these are internal developer environment changes or whatever. It's our plumbing.
Something like that.
Yeah,
but I would not agree, because what you do is that you're saying that if you already have a Kubernetes environment that is a managed Kubernetes environment, then you can reap the benefits of that ODIM now fits straight in there for the lifecycle management of ODIM. That's not an internal development environment change.
We're just basically concerned with being able to build a reference implementation of ODIM, Thomas.
So you're not saying that if somebody already have a Kubernetes lifecycle management environment, then ODIM fits right in.
Yeah, what we can say is which versions of Kubernetes you can build and deploy ODIM on, and then that should be enough. I mean, that's what ONAP does. I'm not trying to say more than that.
We're saying two different things.
Yeah, I think the way it works, and we don't have Bharat here, so take this with a grain of salt, but the way it works, that my understanding is when you do make all, it will build all the Go packages. It will stand up a single node Kubernetes controller, and then it will stand up all of the microservices in containers separated, managed by that single node Kubernetes controller. So Thomas, it doesn't fit into an existing, I mean, you could obviously make it fit in, but it has to be some hands-on work there, right?
Okay, so you're not sort of just a cloud native application that fits into any Kubernetes cluster. That's not what you're saying with this.
It could, but I'm just saying what we have enabled with this moving from Docker to Kubernetes is like when you do make all, it will run in a Kubernetes controlled cluster rather than just standalone Docker containers. That's all.
But if you're saying that it will create the complete Kubernetes cluster, then you can't run in any Kubernetes cluster, because then you're saying basically that you need to have your own dedicated Kubernetes cluster to run. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying you need to. I'm saying what happens when you run make all. It's part of the CI/CD pipeline, and it's not a. I mean, can you call a single node Kubernetes control plane for a cluster? If you can, then I guess
we should not be making any. I mean, guys, look, we don't know how ODIM is going to be used and deployed in commercial distros. and how those distros are going to be consumed by the operators. So the thing we can do is provide recipes for building ODIM. And we also want to provide enhancements to the developers who want to participate in the project. That's what these changes are for. We can stipulate which versions of Kubernetes we are compatible with. And that should be sufficiently, sufficient for those that want to take a snapshot of this work, commercialize it, and then offer it to somebody else. And they may make enhancements that make ODIM deployable in a particular version of Kubernetes that we don't support, or maybe in environments that are not even Kubernetes based to begin with. Let's not try to anticipate the entire world. Let's just kind of focus on simple things that we need to accomplish.
Then I think it's a developer and integration environment changes, because you basically say,
okay, we can wordsmith this to death.
But that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I think we're out of time, guys, and I need to jump. But there's been good discussions. Did you have anything, Susan, that you need answers on, or can we end now? Are you good? I don't hear you if you talk.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I think the thing to do is put these features, update the features right here on the roadmap page, but hold this back until we finish this discussion.
Yeah, and then send out an email on the email list once you've done that, and people can disagree or agree or suggest something, right?
Sounds good. And thanks. Sorry, I know we're over time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
All right.